define the professional and political career of Dr. Manmohan Singh, right from the time that he graduated from some of the topmost educational institutions in United Kingdom, that was the Oxford Institute, and then taking a look at a number of prestigious posts that he was responsible for heralding, including the Chief Economic Advisor, including the Deputy Chairperson of the Planning Commission, as well as being part of the Commerce Ministry in the capacity of the Finance Secretary. Let's take a look at his career from the educational qualifications right up to the time he became the Prime Minister of the country. Here's a look in 1952. And there is a picture of him, the batch where he was studying MA Economics. This is from Punjab University in Chandigarh. He stood first in his batch passed with flying colours. This is in 1954. Wright's Prize for Distinguished Performance at St. John's College in Cambridge. This is in 1955 and 1957. He received the Wrenbury Scholar Prize at the University of Cambridge for his exceptional educational qualifications. In fact, taking a look at the DPhil that he finished in Oxford University and DLit honoris causa that he was granted at Oxford in 1957. He finished his PhD thesis on India's export competitiveness, after which he decided to be a professor between 1957 and 1959 as the senior lecturer in economics at the Punjab University in Chandigarh. That was his alma mater as well when he went back to teach the students. 1959 to 1963, he was a reader economics in Punjab University once again, and then he moved on from 1963 to 1965, professor of economics in Punjab University once again. And then in 1969 up until 1971, he was professor at the International Trade Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi, honorary professor, Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. So being an academic, he decided to go on and teach at various universities, first in Chandigarh and then in Delhi. In 1996, he was professor at the Delhi School of Economics at the University of Delhi. And this time period, 1966, he became the Economics Affairs Officer. So from the time that he devoted to teaching in various universities as professor, he moved on to his professional, to increasing his professional qualifications, wherein in 1966 to 1969, he was the chief at the Financing for Trade section at UNCTAD. This was in terms of framing policies when it came to the growth of Global South. 1972 to 1974, he was the deputy for India in the IMF Committee of 20 on International Monetary Reform. So he carried on his legacy as an economist and provided his expertise in formulating these guidelines. In 1977 to 1979, he led the Indian delegation to AID India Consortium meetings. And these, in fact, the pictures that depict the landmark events in the life of Dr. Manmohan Singh when he was taking part in these key roles in various organizations. In 1980, between 1980 and 1982, this is the Indo-Soviet Joint Planning Group meeting, which he is seen participating in. Moving on, in 1982, the Indo-Soviet Monitoring Group meeting, where he played an integral role. He led the team to build consensus. In 1993, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting taking place in Cyprus, and that image depicts the meeting that was held in this region. Let's take a look at 1993, where he participated in the Human Rights World Conference taking place in Vienna in Austria. Moving on to the years that passed from 1971 to 1972, he was the economic advisor at the Ministry of Foreign Trade. He graduated from there, and got into the role of being the chief economic advisor at the Ministry of Finance from 1972 to 1976. He further graduated to accomplishing bigger tasks in 1976 to 1980. He was the director of the Reserve Bank of India. He was director at the Industrial Development Bank of India, alternate governor for India, Board of Governors, Asian Development Bank, alternative governor for India, Board of Governors, IBRD. So he wore various hats and accomplished a number of achievements during this tenure. In 1976 up until April 1980, he was the secretary at the Ministry of Finance in the Department of Economic Affairs. He was member of the Atomic Energy Commission. He was member of the Finance and Space Commissions as well. So he took up these tasks and was adept at fulfilling all of his responsibilities diligently. From April 1980 up until September 15, 1982, he was the member secretary of the Planning Commission, an important task that was given to him, keeping in mind his achievements and fulfillment of all tasks provided to him. 1980 to 1983, he was the chairperson of the Indian Committee of the Indo-Japan Joint Study. Moving on, he also was brought into the limelight. This was in September 16, 1982 up until January 14, 1985, where he was the governor of the Reserve Bank of India. Recognizing his acumen of being an economist par excellence, this task was bestowed upon him. 1982 to 1985, alternate governor for India, Board of Governors, International Monetary Fund. So this was right after. In 1983, 1984, he was member of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. This was the time when Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of the country. 1985, he was the president of the Indian Economic Association. And moving on, on January 15th, 1985 up until 31st of July 1987, he was the deputy chairperson of the Planning Commission, a very prestigious position. Was said to be, the deputy chairperson of the Planning Commission was said to be of the level of a cabinet minister back in the day. August 1st, 1987 up until 10th November 1990, he was the Secretary General and the Commissioner of South Commission in Geneva. Moving on, he grew up the ranks. This was from 1990 up until 1991. He was advisor to the Prime Minister on economic affairs. So taking large strides from moving on from his professional career to closing in on working with the Prime Minister. From 15th of March 1991 to 20th of June 1991, he was the chairman of the University Grants Commission. And then this is the dissertation that was written by Manmohan Singh, India's export trends and the prospects for self-sustained growth. This was in the time period when he was heading the University Grants Commission. Let's take a look at the other achievements of Dr. Manmohan Singh, and this is interesting to note. Dr. Manmohan Singh had time and again mentioned Ian D. Little, who was a British economist, and he attributed a number of his successes to his mentor, Ian Little. In that particular dissertation that he wrote under the mentorship of Ian Little, he put forth the argument and said he presented a compelling case for free trade and emphasized the importance of exports, which later on in terms of his policy formulation as finance minister was reflective in India's growth story. Economies worldwide were focusing on internal development through import substitution was the key role that played in the dissertation that he put out in his during the tenure. He also spoke about how imports have to be paid for either by current export earnings or by withdrawal from reserves of foreign exchange or by fresh capital inflow. And as I said, these were all reflective later on when he got the chance to bring about a transformation in the country's economy as the finance minister and later on as the prime minister of the country. In the long run, the import capacity of an economy and its ability to utilize the above mentioned benefits of international trade is crucially dependent on its export capacity. That led to the finance minister under the P.V. Narasimha Rao government to ensure that export subsidies were reduced, which allowed for the FDI to get into the country up unto 51%. And he became the theoretical groundwork for India's economic decades later in 1991. Having taken a look at the academic successes of Dr. Manmohan Singh and obviously the varied number of roles that he played under